Hey everybody, my name is Chris Chapin and I'm a special education teacher in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, and I'm also on the whole brain teaching staff. And today I'm going to talk to you about having some deeper thinking in the ordinary things of life. First of all, I have 4th through 6th graders, and we are currently remote, but soon we're going to be half remote, half in the classroom. So that's going to appear to have some changes, but I have found some effective things that I do believe are going to work in both realms. First of all, take the ordinary things in your classroom. I took today and we compared things that we use to make a picture. We talked about the watercolors. We talked about markers, talked about crayons, and we also talked about using chalk. Now, there are advantages of using chalk, and we did a little exploration and thought about those things that are advantages of using chalk. So, first of all, we started off, and this is based upon some questions that Coach is developing in the classroom, but I still think that we can always push our students to think a little deeper and add a dice roll to it. So you would say one important thing about the story was that they used, and you would talk about what kind of materials they used. Then you would talk about what's the advantage of using that material versus the chalk. There are definitely advantages using the chalk. What are the disadvantages? The disadvantages when you're comparing and contrasting is the fact that it's going to get all over you and eventually it's going to be all used up. Then we did some comparison and contrasting about the crayons versus the markers. We love the markers because the markers are lots of fun. But markers also can get on your hands. Crayons are more for babies. So we talked a lot about that. And then we even got into what do we need? I thought this was interesting. One of my students came up with when we were talking about the watercolors, that you needed an extra supply. You needed water. Water spills. Water gets all over. You only have, and I was even thinking when you have the thin little brush, you only can color it in so fast. You have to let it dry. The marker, I thought this was interesting. One of my students came up with this. The advantage with a marker is that it has a tip on it. So that was cool. Tip on it, so it's not going to make a mess if it's inside the box. So you would start with 1 point. Then you would even say, how are they similar? How are the markers? How are the crayons similar? And they're similar because they color in things. They're assignments. We use them at school. Talk about how they're different, how they're the same. We talk about maybe the times that we would use markers, times we would use crayons, times we would use the watercolors. More likely, you're going to use the watercolors when you're in art class, not when you're in the regular classroom with the teacher. And then you might even say 3 things about that supply. What's some 3 things about chalk? Use it outside. Zoop. You
Staff, please.
Sorry about this.
Excuse the interruption, but this is somewhat urgent. I do have an abundance of novels at all different grade levels.